We stand on the edge of a great challenge. A challenge that unites us. That brings together familiar faces and total strangers. A challenge that makes fast friends and new beginnings. We have all put aside our lives for a chance to do the right thing. And so, we stand here today because we refuse to fail. Because no matter how many soldiers Draken creates, no matter how many powers he steals, he will never have what we do. He will never be a part of what we are. You've all been briefed. You know the plan of attack. Everyone take a moment and ready yourselves. This is a great challenge. Possibly the greatest threat any of us have ever faced. But we fight together! Whether we stand or whether we fall, we are the Power Rangers!
Power Rangers!
Following a series of reviews looking at Power Rangers games that have varied a great deal in terms of quality, it's a relief being able to turn my attention to one that many fans of the franchise consider to be the very best, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. It was released in 2019 and is loosely based on the comic book storyline from the year prior by Boom Studios, called Shattered Grid. I could best describe it as the Power Rangers equivalent of Avengers Infinity War or Endgame. I recently reviewed Shattered Grid in full on the channel, but to recap what happened, the universe becomes threatened by an alternate reality version of Tommy Oliver, the Green Ranger, who had remained loyal to his Empress Rita Repulsa and never joined up with the Power Rangers. He would kill Rita, Zordon, and many of the Rangers in his universe, stealing their power coins, and combine the energies of the White and Green Ranger to become an even stronger hybrid warrior known as Lord Draken. Commanding a massive army of militarized Ranger sentries, Lord Draken would travel through space and time, killing members of the various Power Rangers teams and stealing their morphers to grow stronger and eventually become one with the Morphin Grid, the multiversal energy field that acts as the power source of every incarnation of Power Ranger. The video game adaptation of the storyline, Battle for the Grid, is a team-based fighter that contains a grand assembly of heroes, villains, and battle arenas from across the Power Rangers universe and their multitude of incarnations over the past 25 plus years. You've got characters from Mighty Morphin, Zeo, Lost Galaxy, Time Force, Jungle Fury, Mystic Force, Dino Charge, Samurai, Mega Force, and even the Blue Ranger from that failed Power Rangers film from 2017. At launch, Battle for the Grid was very bare bones and relied heavily on paid DLC. The version of the game I purchased and will be using footage of for this video is the Super Edition that came out in 2021. It includes all of the downloadable content that was released up until that point, and is the version of the game I recommend you buy if you're interested in playing it. The game is actually worth its price tag now, mostly, which wasn't always the case. Despite the most current version of the game featuring a solid roster of 26 characters and 9 stages, I would be lying if I said I didn't wish there were a bit more to choose from. Out of the 21 different incarnations of Power Rangers teams there were at the time of the game's initial release, by my count, only half of them are represented with playable characters, and even less when looking at the stages. Given the nature of the game's story, I feel like every version of Power Rangers should be represented, even if they weren't featured in the Shattered Grid comic. Why not? It's a video game. Pack it full with as many characters and locations as possible. Bring all these different corners of the franchise together in one place. You might as well. But I understand that would be a daunting task, and this complaint, if you want to call it that, is more of a selfish nitpick on my part more than anything. I am still satisfied with the roster of characters they chose. There's quite a bit of variety to them, and some even have multiple costumes, which is awesome. I am heartbroken that my favorite Power Ranger, Billy Cranston from Mighty Morphin, is absent here. Same goes with Zack, the Black Ranger. It's strange to not have all 5 of the original team present, seeing as this game is adapting the events of Shattered Grid with its story, but it makes up for it by having the classic villains Goldar, Rita Repulsa, and Lord Zed playable. That puts a big smile on my face. Lord Zed especially. He's the best Power Rangers villain of all time in my opinion. Fight me. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid is a team-based fighter. It's similar to other games in the genre like Marvel vs. Capcom, Dragon Ball FighterZ, and Tekken Tag Tournament, among others. In Battle for the Grid, you select teams of 3 characters and fight each other one-on-one, with the ability to perform assist attacks with your partners and tag them in and out as you see fit. Each character has various light and strong strikes, throws, counterattacks, and a series of EX moves that can be initiated by filling the bars of your super meter and pressing the super attack button along with a direction on the D-pad. When you have at least 2 bars, you can perform an ultimate super move, unique to each character. You also have a Zord meter below your health that is broken up into 3 sections that will fill up as you take damage, which allows you to utilize your chosen Megazord to perform counters or to simply pummel your enemies into the ground. I've mentioned in the past in my reviews of the Injustice games primarily that I've never been that big of a fan of the fighting game genre. I've just never been really good at them. Tag team fighters especially are difficult for me to get behind. I don't feel they are as accessible as the 1v1 games. Learning the moves of one character is hard enough for me, let alone several, fighting at the same time in a battle. I do get the appeal these games have though. They're flashy. There are lots of impressive combos that can be performed, tagging between characters, and I'm sure these ones have an even greater competitive scene online. But for me personally, they are too fast-paced, and it's sometimes difficult to follow exactly what's happening on screen. I experience a bit of sensory overload. With all that said, however, I enjoyed my time with Power Rangers Battle for the Grid a great deal, and out of all the team-based fighters I have played, which I mean isn't all that extensive of a list, this one is probably my favorite. I was really starting to enjoy myself with it, and I think the main reason for that is because it has a much more simplified control scheme than some of the other fighters I have played. Using super attacks doesn't require you to pull off any complicated button sequences. I felt like a master at this game, pulling off all the different special moves, even though I would occasionally get my shit kicked in by the game's extremely inconsistent AI, being juggled around like a hacky sack with a 30 or 40 hit combo. As previously mentioned, Battle for the Grid is loosely based on the 2018 Boom Studios storyline Shattered Grid I recently reviewed on the channel. I think the game does a very good job at recreating the events of the comic, with you taking on Lord Draken and his forces. You fight familiar enemy characters like the Mastodon Sentries, Goldar, and Draken's second-in-command, the Ranger Slayer, the brainwashed Pink Ranger, Kimberly Hart, from his universe. There was also a greater emphasis put on the Magna Defender, who was corrupted by Draken. He only had a brief cameo in the comic. At certain points during lengthy battles, the game has you switch back and forth between the hero and villain characters too, which is a nice touch, getting you to play both sides. The story mode in this game is fairly short and has a few really frustrating battles within it due to the inconsistent AI, probably to artificially extend it, but it does hit all of the main story beats of the comic and leaves you fairly satisfied by the end. The cutscenes add a lot to the overall presentation. The music in Battle for the Grid is made epic, with a lot of nostalgic callbacks to the franchise, and many of the actors from the original Mighty Morphin series return to voice their characters here, which makes everything feel very authentic. I think Jason David Frank is the standout, for obvious reasons, pulling double duty. I'm sure he had a lot of fun playing an evil version of his Tommy Oliver character, far eviler than the original Green Ranger was. Many fans of Power Rangers consider Battle for the Grid to be the greatest Power Rangers game ever made. I like it, but because the fighting game genre isn't for me, I do still prefer the older games. The original one, based on the 1994 TV series on the SNES, as well as the one on Genesis, an adaptation of the 1995 feature film. I do see why people love Battle for the Grid though. The vast amount of characters, spanning several incarnations of the team, the fun and addictive gameplay, the flashy animations and graphics, the fact that it's inspired by arguably one of the best Power Rangers stories ever told. It's definitely the best looking Power Rangers game so far, that's for sure. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it in the comments below. Have you played Battle for the Grid? Did you enjoy it? Do you think it's the best Rangers game out there? Let me know. I want to thank you all for watching my video review. I hope you found it entertaining. If you'd like to support the channel and ensure the production of more content like this, subscribe, hit that bell icon for notifications, and become a producer over on patreon.com if you can. Also, check out my previous reviews looking at past Power Rangers games. I'm sure I'll look at more of them in the future. Take care.
Quite a view, huh?
Yeah, really is.
Sorry. If you want to be alone.
No, it's okay. I was just... I don't know. Dwelling, I guess.
On him?
That obvious, huh?
You know, I was with Draken for a long time. And even though I wasn't myself, I remember it all. Every terrible thing he did. And standing here right now, looking at you, I don't even think of Draken. You two may look alike, but you aren't the same.
Yeah, I mean, I know that. I don't know. If he was able to do the things he did, who's to say I couldn't?
The thing that made him different isn't that he stayed with Rita. And that's a part of it, sure. But it's much deeper than that. See? You have something that he never had. People who love you and support you. You have a family, Tommy. Yeah, you really do. Also, you should totally listen to Alternate Future Me. She clearly knows what she's talking about.
Hey guys, it's good to see you.
You too, man. You too.